Welcome to the third episode of the Time and Place podcast. I'm here with my good friend Brent Poncelet. Me and him first met in the fall of 2002. We were both students going to media arts production at Siast at the Woodland campus in Prince Albert. After graduation in 2005, we eventually lived together too in Saskatoon, where we also worked together at a local media company. Welcome, Brent. How are you this fine evening?
Hi, Matt. Great to be here.
So going back to that time when we were in media arts production, I believe it was around 2002 to 2005, 2006, around that time. How do you feel you grew as a person during our college experience?
Oh, man. When I started media arts production, I was about 19, I think. And I'd been graduated for a year. And I think I was turning into a bit of a punk when I first started there. That was kind of like my first entry point into adulthood, kind of really, past high school, I would say. And it was really great to be able to express that with quite a bit of creativity. And I think as far as like that era of my life, I think of quite a bit of like forming new relationships in sort of an adult kind of life, post high school kind of thing.
Environment, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a great introduction to it, and I'm glad that it's kind of maintained itself throughout my life. Still to this day, I still really appreciate video production and documentaries, although I always felt of myself as a little bit more of a social person as far as like filmmaking and video stuff goes. So I was never as much a technician, but I appreciate some of that stuff too.
What kind of made you want to get into that program originally?
Originally, I think it was because I had some friends in high school and we were making we made like a horror mockumentary type video once, and we did a bunch of like abstract kind of shit. And I think that was my first influences. I wanted to do like shit that made people think.
Tell me about a good or interesting memory that comes in mind during that time.
A memory of
media arts production.
Siast days. Oh yeah. I have to come up. What level of appropriateness should I go into in this story? Would you say? Oh, I got one. You know what? Here's a good one. Okay. I think you were there. I think it was you, Mike, Brock, and I. And it must have been a night out or something. And I think we were having some drinks. And then we all ended up deciding we were probably pretty drunk. And I think we get a cab back to Brock's place, of all places. I'm not sure why that happened. Usually we would go to your guys's, I think. Anyway, we decided to get beer, and at that time of the night, we were only able to get beer, and so we get beer and bring it back. And I guess we must have taken different vehicles because Brock and I think were already there, and you guys came back with beer, and Brock was like, "Oh well, no, I can't drink beer." Do you remember this story?
Vaguely.
Okay. He's like, I don't drink beer. It's like, oh, well, come on, Brock. Like, you don't ever drink beer? It's like, no, I've only drinking it once. It's like, when did you drink it the one time? It's like, well, it was like, I don't know, like grade 9 or something. We're like, oh, Brock, you gotta have a beer. Like, have a beer, man. You haven't had a beer up until now? It's like, no, it really made me sick. I really didn't like the taste of it. It's like, oh, Brock, you were 15 at the time. You gotta try a beer as an adult. It'll be fine. It'll be good. Here we're like basically like sitting him down. Basically, and he's refusing. He's telling us that he's not going to like it. And we're like, Brock, come on, just try it. Like, it's been this long. It's been years since you've sipped on a beer. Come on, Brock, have a sip for us. We're all drinking and stuff, eh? And so he finally swigs it back and almost instantaneously, like, runs to the bathroom and throws up. And that was...
do remember that.
That was the second time Brock tried beer.
That was pretty funny. Yeah, they had a really sketchy place on that hill on 15th and 15th, or no, 15th and 28th, I think it was. Or anyway, it was right on the corner there. It's probably not even there anymore, but it was a super sketchy apartment, and there was like craziness always going on in the neighbors' apartments. But yeah, back at Siast, I acted in one of your projects. It was a short film called "The Evolution of Media." I remember it being pretty insane. Tell me about the project, and will you ever redo it or finish it?
Oh,
Do you have some of the footage? I remember doing some really cool scenes, especially that silhouette stuff there, remember?
we're still talking like 2004. But okay, so I'm trying to remember the premise of this.
Yeah, just quick summary,
It's a writer, and the things that he writes about involve. It's supposed to be like a mindfuck thriller type movie. It involves himself, I think, or at least how he imagines himself, or how he would like to imagine himself to be, in sort of a role of a detective in an ongoing like series of like stories, basically crime dramas. And he finds himself in his own consciousness inside of the story, and looking out into himself as a writer. And that was kind of the general premise, and it was shot in a fairly abstract kind of way, but also I think pretty good for its time. I would love to see it again. I haven't seen it in probably a decade or something.
Do you still have the tapes?
I think I do. I did some cleaning of like old boxes and stuff out of my shed, and I think I have some tapes. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember back in like 2006 when I was living with you. We found them in like under the stairs or something.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because they keep on kind of popping up, and then they end up disappearing into another cupboard or shelf or something, and then they find themselves back to me again.
We should edit that, or just edit whatever's there.
Yeah. I mean, there's 2 big grocery bags full of old mini DV tapes, because that's all we used to use back in the day.
Yeah, we shot some cool scenes. Far as I remember,
I did do a shoot not too long ago with a mini DV camera, an was a Z7U.
Oh, yeah.
And still looks pretty good. Like, I would say it rivals the EX1 in some ways. I mean, the lens is a lot better looking on it, but the EX1 is all around way better.
Yeah. You were a video journalist for a number of years. You shot and edited your own stuff and continue to indulge in video production. Tell me about some of your favorite videos you've done to date.
Oh, wow.
Just tell me some of the highlight ones that you've personally like the most.
Jeez. I mean, I really liked the lifestyle of the Max. Just always shooting a lot of different stuff. There's a lot of Max minis and stuff that I really liked, but
the mini docs.
Those were always really fun. But kind of more like I don't know. I just have to think of all my old projects that I've done. I did one with the Lighthouse. I did a series of videos that I really liked. A lot of the live performances over the years, just collectively, I always get really pumped about live performances. I don't know, like I find that like it's more like sets of shoots that I've done, or sort of themes like that I would include in my favorites, but not specific single shoots. I guess for some of those like bigger shoots, like the Donnie Peranto music video was kind of a highlight at its time, for sure. Like it was kind of a decked out shoot.
Yeah. I remember the Oral Fuentes stuff.
Yeah, that was a really good classic. Yeah, I got really into doing some stuff with sled dogs back in the days in the wintertime. And I ended up doing it for 3 winters in a row, and I got like pretty skilled at it. Like it has its own like unique kind of skills that you get good shots with, and I was getting pretty good with it. I was getting like a lot of shots where I was like behind on a sled and getting a skidoo and getting me to like kind of go up and down along the dogs racing and running, and get some really nice shots.
Sunset
coming down over the trees in the background, beautiful. Slow motion, that shit.
I remember that. Yeah, and it was like you had a sundog as well too, right?
Yeah, the sundog one. I think that won like some sort of cheesy award. Like I think it was like the best community produced video of that year in Saskatchewan or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I guess that's an accomplishment.
Was that a Golden Sheaf award?
I think that might be what it was. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
over the years, I always thought you were great on camera. Have you ever thought about being in front of the camera more often into the future?
I'm horribly shy in front of the camera these days. It seems like I think if you were to get me like interviewing or in like a relaxed kind of space, I could have fun with it. But yeah, you know what? I would say that I could be left open to being on camera, but yeah, there'd have to be some dialogue.
Acting?
I mean, there'd be dialogue before me going on camera.
but I'm like, would you like to do more acting or just more hosting or documentary style?
Well, this is my
journalism.
This is my first time being interviewed. Maybe, well, other than what we did 2 days ago or whatever. But
really?
I think so.
Oh,
yeah. So this is new to me.
Okay.
Although, like, I'm kind of familiar with the other side of the process, the other side of the microphone.
Yeah, I guess I remember when we were all at Siast, we all kind of acted in each other's projects. So I always
yeah, I've done some acting, I guess, way back then. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I've done acting before too. I've done like some stage stuff like in the high school days. I did like a Wizard of Oz when I was
Oh yeah.
I was probably 17 or something. I think I was the Tin Man. It's a Tin Man.
Nice.
I did like a play rendition. I think it was To Sir with Love, and I was the teacher. And I had like a ponytail, and I was like the cool teacher that like inspires everybody.
Is there a video of that?
I don't think so.
Do you put that on your acting resume? So after some years of doing video work, you decided to switch gears a bit and go to university.
Yeah, so I guess I was doing video for a few years after our time in school.
And you decided to go to the University of Saskatchewan for a degree in cultural anthropology. Tell us about that field of study and how you like being a student at the University of Saskatchewan.
Man, I started going to school, university, starting at the age of 25. And I was pretty excited getting in there. I was so pumped to start like using my brain for like academia. I was in love with the idea of just spending your days reading and writing, and I thought that was cool. I guess it's still cool. But yeah, it's been a journey for sure.
Well, after doing so much, like you did years of shooting and editing, mini stories already, so it must have been nice to just kind of further that study, I guess.
I think one of the original intentions with it was that I was really wanting to get from being a person who was a video camera guy to getting more involved with like documentaries or like using it for social issues or whatever. And I had in mind that if I had gotten myself a degree, I would broaden my worldview and maybe point myself in directions that were kind of like that, which seems to be possibly the case. I've done quite a few videos that are related to both anthropology and social work, just short little videos and stuff.
How many years did you go to the U.S.?
University has been, I think it's 10 years, including the 2.5 or 3 years with media arts production.
Oh, wow.
So probably 7 years. I think I'm on my 7th year of university, 10th year of post-secondary.
How do you like the university itself?
Well, I've been to 4 different institutions now, so I can tell you that there are differences between all of them. The U of S, the U of R, Siast, and UVic.
Wow. So, on July 27th, 2014, you stopped in at my place fully loaded with your camper van, ready to go to the coast and continue your education. I remember you had a bike strapped to the roof. Oh, yeah. I actually have a picture of the van and
the little red bike.
Yeah, on the roof. If you watch the YouTube version of this, you'll see that. If you want to check it out, you might have to stalk my Instagram and go back that far. But tell me about how you felt at that time, and over a year ago when you left, and what did you learn from the whole experience?
That was a pretty optimistic point in my life, and it's been a pretty neat year since that day, I guess. Really, it's been about 14 months.
That was the day you left, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You were like the last person I saw before I left Saskatoon. Right on. Good for you.
Yeah.
Right on.
And then you went there to go to the University of Victoria.
Well, I left in July. I left in late July, so I left with more than a month before school started. But yeah, I was signed up for UVic, so I think I had like 6 weeks to kind of just like gallivant around Vancouver Island and basically did that. Well, the Kootenays and Vancouver Island, basically all of BC.
How did it differ from the U of S?
University of Victoria?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. I only took 3 classes there. So I was there somewhat, but I found that it was a lot more it wasn't I found, and I don't feel like the comparison could be fair because I've only done 3 classes at UVic, but all of the classes that I did do, all the stuff I was doing was really based on like imperial, factual, just read and regurgitate sort of information kind of thing, which was great because it was good to get a lot of new information and just start learning new shit and memorizing it. But there wasn't a lot of like room in there for like, I don't know, papers and research and being analytical. So I found that the U of S does a better job with that is in the social sciences. But again, that was based on 3 classes, so I might have just taken like shit classes. But between that time of travel, I mean, at 2014, that was, I think, probably like the summer after probably the hardest year of school I've done. Actually, definitely the hardest school year I've ever done. And I was in fairly rough shape. And that summer, I did 108 days of yoga, and it was kind of along that. I didn't know I was gonna do 108 days in a row, but it just kind of worked out that way. Just kept on going. I was gonna do a 30-day challenge, and then I felt like doing a 40-day, and didn't feel like stopping, so I kept going. And it was in the spring that I started that, so it was kind of in the summer that I started the travel. And between that time before going to University of Victoria was some of the most interesting pieces of education I've gotten in my life, I would say. And the relationships I formed out in the island too, all of which will probably not be there when I go back there. A lot of them have been from traveling gypsies and whatnot.
Yeah, I guess you on the road you just kind of meet people and
yeah, you meet people, and it's remarkable in those kind of environments how quickly you can form really strong relationships and things that will matter to you for a long time, kind of thing.
Yeah, and how quickly they can be lost if you don't get some form of contact information.
Well, that's also kind of the fun part about it. Sometimes you like have this like awesome connection or story with somebody that you'll never see or hear from again, or
yeah.
There's something kind of cool about that.
Yeah. Not to worry. You're a little more honest, maybe.
Yeah.
Because they'll never be close to you.
Yeah.
You lived in a camper van for most of that time, right?
Yeah, that's right. For the whole year, I was either in a camper van, a tent, or out of hostels.
How did you enjoy the van life while being a student?
I love the van life. That 6 months or so that I was out in Vancouver Island, I've been out there before in my adult life too, but that particular 6 months were some of the more magical ones of my life, I would say. And you know how like when you have like a seat and you've sit in it forever and your ass kind of forms a nice spot in there.
Homer Simpson style?
Yeah. I kind of had that in my bed in the back. It was great. Like every time I lay in there now, it's just like the most relaxing. Like it just fits like a glove. It's just perfect. But yeah, living out there, I was like, mostly I just had myself parked in between 2 or 3 different spots, and I'd set up camp for probably a month at a time, or in one case, I think I was 2 months. I stayed in one spot, and basically just commute on bike. And every day I would pretty much go to University of Victoria and either do a class or maybe do a couple hours of homework or sometimes I just go there and grab a bite to eat too. It's just nice environment there. It's beautiful there. There's more deer in the University of Victoria than people at night. It's crazy. It's wonderful. I'm being maybe a little bit exaggerating, but not even that much. Lots of deer everywhere. In the daytime too, but especially at night, like fuck, everywhere you go, there's deer everywhere.
Oh, wow.
It's trippy.
Huh. I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah. Anyway, though, so yeah, I went to the University of Victoria and I went to the one yoga studio in Menzies Street, which was kind of the other side of town. So every day I kind of went from Fernwood or that area to the University of Victoria, and then go to the other side of Victoria to the yoga studio that I was practicing at. So it was a beautiful lifestyle. It was wonderful. Always being on my bike.
Good weather.
Good weather, yeah. It's very temperate. Like even in December, it's still pretty warm, like 8 or 10.
It's always exciting when you have a change like that, when we're moving to a new place.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I've fallen in love with like rainforest and ocean and big bodies of water. Like I kind of need all that stuff in my life at this point now. I think I've fallen in love with it.
So it wasn't like you were full on stealth mode, trying to, hide from. You had spots. It's not like you were trying to be in Walmart parking lots the whole time or be on the street and pretend like you weren't camping in it. You had a few designated spots that you could park the van and set up shop.
So
as a home.
When I was like living, basically when I was in University of Victoria and doing the yoga, I was like set up in places for a month at a time, and it was like prearranged, and I would kind of bounce from one place to another for a month at a time. But for example, the 6 weeks before that time and the 6 weeks after that time, I was doing just that. I was bouncing around in Walmart parking lots and stuff like that. And also,
that must have been kind of exciting too.
Yeah, it was kind of a fun lifestyle. Like it is pretty hard. Like it kind of gets grungy, and like you have to find like trucker shower stops and I don't know, life on the road. But it's also, yeah, it's definitely awesome. And it's just the road. You have everything in front of you, and it's always just fun to see what comes up next.
It's something you would do again?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've actually done some road tripping now. I got the road trip bug when I was maybe 11 or 12. No, I'm sorry, I was a bit younger than that. But my parents, they took the whole family to Mexico from Prince Albert to Tijuana, and we did that drive over a course of like a summer basically, and camped all the way. And that's given me the travel bug in that kind of way. So I've done some road tripping and camped along the way, and usually stay at a place for 4 or 5 days and find a place with lots of like hiking trails and stuff like that, and then just park the van wherever I can get away with parking it, and then just spend my days going outside of town and hiking and whatever else.
Yeah, I think when you're a child and you do a lot of camping and you're traveling like that, you tend to want to do that when you get older, for sure.
Yeah. I haven't done a ton of international travel. I've done some, but not a ton. I mean, you see these people that travel all the time and they're serious with it. They spend their lives just checking out new countries and shit. I'm not one of those people. I've been in school for most of my adult life. Maybe later, though. Maybe in my 30s.
Passport stamper?
Yeah.
Well, before you left, I believe you sold your house, knowing this trip would be, a pretty big life experience. Tell me about the vacation side of your trip and the West Coast, eventually going down to South America, or I believe you drove down to Los Angeles and then flew to Peru.
Yeah. So, yeah, the vacation side of that was a continuation of the road trip. So my van was basically parked for 4 or 5 months around Victoria, and I didn't drive it at all and just commuted on my bike. And then in late December, I drove it from there to took a ferry over to Port Angeles. It's the first town in the Northwest United States. And then drove all the way down to LA, which I've done, not counting, there's a time I did it with my family, and then there's another time I got as far as about halfway between San Francisco and LA, and then I headed east, and that was one of the 2 times I went to Burning Man.
Oh, wow.
But that time, so 2014, I just drove all the way to basically a town called San Luis Obispo, which was just a couple hours north of LA. And it's a really nice kind of, I don't know, laid back, kind of a college town, kind of a hippie college town. Lots of yoga, lots of beach scenes there. Cool town, yeah, really great. And I had some family there that I've never met before.
Oh, weird. That's cool.
So it was great. Yeah, it was kind of like my dad's second cousin, I think. But I mean, the guy looks so much like a Poncelet. Like, it's kind of funny seeing him and I stand together because we look like, you can see the genetic characteristics of us together. Absolutely,
The resemblance, yeah.
big time. But yeah, and he married a woman from, I think, Singapore, who's a beautiful, awesome, amazing woman, and probably one of the best cooks I've ever met. And I always told her that. So yeah, and then they had a couple of kids. There's 2 Brown Poncelet kids out there. Yeah, I shouldn't call them kids. They're my age.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of Brown Poncelets out there. It's beautiful.
It's diversity now.
Yeah.
In your name. And I believe the name of your van is Old Blue.
Old Blue? I actually have a couple names. It's Old Blue, and my other name for it is the Mahayana.
When did you decide to name it that?
The Mahayana is it translates to large vessel. It's usually used as a Buddhist sort of terminology. It's kind of a sect of Buddhism, I guess you could say. So there's kind of an analogy with that between a small vessel and a large vessel. It's kind of basically, if you see on one side of it, the small vessel is basically believing that you and you alone are responsible for your own salvation. And the large vessel is more like, there is no you and we're all in it together kind of thing. So that's kind of the implication in a Buddhist sense, but the term Mahayana just means large vessel, and it's a big fucking van.
Interesting. Very interesting. And Old Blue held up the whole time? You had no problems?
The few problems here and there. I mean, it has tons of quirks. Like, for example, the gas, when you're reading the pedometers or whatever. Speedometer, yeah. It's just always, there's 2 of them, and they're always just both on empty. You can't tell if you're empty or full in any way. There's like a belt on it that's like perpetually loose, and it always I'll tighten it or whatever, but it's just, I don't know, it's an old engine. It loosens up real quick no matter what you do with it. So every once in a while it'll start making like a pretty loud noise and stuff like that. All kinds of stuff.
Is it gas or propane?
It's gas. I wish it was propane. I wish it was I don't know, anything else really, but at the same time, I mean, I don't know, I can feel okay at night, I guess, and sleeping with, I don't drive it often or anything like that. But I have felt some conflict over it because I definitely don't feel great about being a polluter, and that van is kind of a polluter for sure. But I will say that I also rarely drive besides when it's long distance, and most of the year I'm in the city and I'm on bike all the time when I am.
Yeah. So anything, any stories you want to tell about, that West Coast drive from Victoria to Los Angeles?
Well, it's cool, man. Okay, well, first of all, one of the guys that I became friends with out there, his name's Noah he's from Toronto, and I think he's back there now. But he's kind of a train hopping, kind of, I don't know, cool. He's an awesome guy. He's a punk, I guess, or he was at the time that I knew him, and I mean that in the best way possible. He did a lot of. Whenever my first thing I think of with Noah is he had an acoustic guitar that he'd always jam with, and he had an awesome version, an acoustic version of "Crazy Rap" by who's the guy that did "Because I Got High," that song?
Afro Man.
Crazy Rap by Afro Man, and he had a really good acoustic version of it. Do you know that song?
No.
It's a really hilarious song, especially to like see this guy and the way he had belched that song out, just fucking real loud, singing it and getting tips with it on the street. I could sing it for you, but it probably has. If you want this to be an all appropriate interview, then I won't sing it.
It's got some racy, explicit material.
It's just smoking weed and banging chicks kind of song.
Okay,
Stoner rap.
So most of the mainstream,
Yeah,
just like most of the mainstream rap. That's
it's like
out
a lot of rap out there. Yeah, it's like the standard stoner rap music, but it's really good. And he had a really good version of it on acoustic guitar. But anyway, yeah, sorry, I'm backtracking the story. So him and I were mates, and we actually went through some shit out there, which I probably won't get into on this interview, but involving, like, I don't know, like, basically cops hassling us for absolutely no fucking reason in, like, the worst kind of way. But that's another story. But anyway, so Noah already doesn't like authority, and I don't like authority either, especially that kind of authority, that formality. Nobody likes that, but some people like it less than others, and we both definitely like it less than others and get it more than others. So anyway, so we're both pretty nervous about going over the border. Yeah, he's coming over the border to the States with me is the plan. And so the night before, we're both kind of basically cuddled up in the van and gonna just first thing in the morning get onto the ferry to get into the States. And here we go. We have this nice walk, and this is the last day in Canada for a while, and we're both really pumped. And his plan was he was just gonna catch a ride out to San Francisco, and he knew a place. He had a lawyer friend that I guess he used to, like, hook up with or something, and she was gonna, like, give him the key to her place for a week or two in San Francisco. So his goal was just to get there and then make connections from there, kind of thing, which sounds pretty cool to me, but not to the border patrol dude who was, like, the absolute embodiment of, like, Captain Buzzkill dickhead fuckface that you could ever imagine. Kind of the worst kind of person. Just really authoritarian and really, like, gets off on, like, I don't know, hassling people basically, and definitely sees a couple, but I mean, I kind of look a little bit like a hippie, and Noah looked a lot like a skid at the time. So already we kind of knew that this is going to be, but we're like, we're not doing anything wrong. We just want to go visit United States. What could possibly be wrong with that? Best country in the world. I'm just talking shit. But yeah, he definitely gave us the hassle really hard. And in the end, Noah wasn't able to go just because he wasn't able to prove that he was more or less wealthy. And I kind of was, because I had recently sold my house. So that was why I was eventually allowed over the border. Not that there's any reason why either of us shouldn't have been allowed over the border, but the patrols on the ferry from Canada, United States, are total dicks. At least the one guy on there, I should be clear, is a total dick. I think everybody else seems pretty cool.
How long were you in the U.S.?
I think I was there. Let's see. I think it was just around a month. Yeah, it was a month, because I had the guy let me in on a condition that I get the fuck out of his country in 1 month. So, yeah, I got the fuck out of his country in 1 month. So I spent about a month getting from Washington to LA, spending some time in each spot along the way, or all kinds of spots, lots of camping. Spent the last few days in LA before I left. And then I came back and spent another 5 or 6 weeks in the United States. I think it was more like 4. And then got into Victoria for just a couple of days on my way back, and had to go back to get my van. I was just on foot in Canada for a couple of days and had to go get my van and go across the ferry again, and sure enough, it's Captain Buzzkill again, getting all pumped to give me a hard time. Eventually I made it over, and it was fine and stuff. And then I traveled from northwest Washington to northeast to Spokane, and then from Spokane to Nelson, and Nelson raced back to Saskatoon and showed up 5 hours before I had my first summer class.
Wow. So when you went to South America, because you flew from Los Angeles to South America, like, did that time reset you for getting, because you had to get back to get your van, right?
Yeah, after South America, I had to get back to my van. I got to LA, and, like, I would have normally thought of LA as a terrifying giant city, but the week that before I left to LA from Peru, I was in Lima, and I probably altogether spent 2 or 3 weeks in Lima throughout the 3 months that I was there. Probably just 2 weeks.
So you had a place to park your van in Los
Yeah,
Angeles for 3 months?
I parked my van in my family's land in San Luis Obispo, just outside of San Luis Obispo, little acreage.
Oh, so that worked out great.
Yeah, and I just loved living with them. They were the coolest family to hang out with for a few days.
Wow. So you spent
And the best food, I'll say again.
So you spent 3 months in Peru.
3 months in Peru.
Wow.
Probably like 2 weeks in Lima, I'll say, and then like a week and a half or 2 weeks kind of in and around Juarez, which is northeast Peru.
Did you see Machu Picchu?
Machu Picchu. I went to the Sacred Valley, and I spent about 4 weeks in the Sacred Valley, but I only went to the not so popular ruins. And I'm not that anti-conformist. I would have been probably open to going, but it was like $150, which is a lot in Peruvian standards, like for anything else that you can do. And if you're traveling for 3 months at a time, I could have went, but I ended up not. I just did all the other ruins besides it, which were probably cooler because they didn't have thousands of people going through them. But maybe next time I go to Peru, I'll check it out. I probably will. That's
crazy. You have to pay.
Yeah, it's quite expensive. It's mostly a lot of it is a train that you're kind of required. I think semi-required. I think some people sneak around it, but
is it because it's just so high up to get to, kind of thing, or?
I think it's just a little ways away from like the nearest sort of town or community, and that town and community has made a killing off of basically renting out hostels and the train and everything to get out there because it's it's out in the acreage and.
But you wouldn't have to would you have to pay to see like Stonehenge or the pyramids? Would you have to pay to see that?
You might have to pay for some of those. For some of the pyramids, you probably would have to pay, and
that just doesn't seem right. I guess the tourism would get the.
Yeah, tourism is a real thing, man. I don't know.
But it's just like they
takes the magic out of it a little bit, eh?
Yeah, like they don't know where that came from. That money shouldn't be claimed.
But
I guess tourism, it's on their land. That makes sense.
It's the descendants of those Incan people,
right?
In a lot of cases.
Exactly. Yeah. Who am I to say? Cool.
Yeah, so Quechuan, I think, is the most common branch off of that sort of scene, which is like a kind of First Nations group in South America. They're more mountainous, and they're probably more likely the majority of them are descendants of Incan. But I think Incan, and I could be wrong about this, but I think it's kind of like an umbrella term. I think it's kind of like saying First Nations persons in Canada. It describes like an umbrella of people, but
wide spectrum.
It's not very specific.
And like, where did you stay? Like, what were the conditions like?
Oh, I stayed in all kinds of things, man. It was great. Like, hostels were big out there, and I like the hostel scene. It's a good life. I don't know, every hostel's a little bit different. But yeah, hostels. I rented one room in the Sacred Valley for a month, and I shared it with a friend. And I think we each paid something like $20 a month or $25 a month, like Canadian, maybe it was American. But that's about what it was valued at. And it was just a little hole in the wall. It was like all concrete, and there's a little window in there, and basically just slept on the cement floor. And there's a shared bathroom that was like absolutely fucked. Whatever.
Was there animals?
Oh yeah, like chickens and mostly chickens. And there's like a dude that I guess he's one of the guys that owns the property. So there's all these kind of like really low income housing, I guess you could call it, on the outskirts of a small, probably still a town, Urubamba. Quechuan, it means land of spiders. So that's where I was at, and he'd have to cut his grass with a machete. And it would take him like a week. So by the time he got from one end of the lawn to the other, it was like the end of the week, and it was time to start at the new side. And I kept on being like, Chaco, imagine if we got a lawnmower over here. Imagine how much money we'd make. But we wouldn't make much money because I think they'd be like, why would I? What am I going to do with my time or something? I don't have money to pay you that much. $5 to mow my lawn. Forget that.
He probably gets really good at like sword fighting though.
Yeah, he probably does. Yeah. But that area was great, and there was like, I don't know, a few places that were like just my hangouts over there. I was like doing a lot of the paperwork that I needed to do. There's a town near there that like an hour drive that had like good internet cafes. So I'd go there and I'd do like work to get myself set up for my practicum in social work. I had to start a resume from scratch and some other stuff.
Oh, wow.
I fill out a bunch of forms and stuff. So I was like a thing that I would do every couple days or third days, catch a bus out there and type away for an hour or two.
So it's a lot more primitive out there as a culture, I take it.
I would not use the word primitive, but...
Okay. What would you use?
Well, I know what you mean as far as like...
just technology, I guess.
Yeah, they don't...
like a typewriter, you know.
Yeah, there isn't much of that there. I mean, it's...
They're not going to use power if they don't need to.
It's second world, you might say. I don't know if I would say it's third world, although some of those towns are pretty third world.
Yeah.
There's pockets of third world for sure in Peru, but there's definitely pockets of second world, and you might even say fully developed, American style. But it's kind of weird to do that because it's like... Seems like all over the world there's people like, I don't know, like American capitalism is just being more and more idolized, and it's becoming like this growing trend. And you see that in Peru, even in like the small towns and stuff like that they've just recently had electricity, and already there's like freaking pictures of Jessica Alba up at dentist shops or stuff like that. Like there's this complete glorification of Americanism, and it isn't just like South America, it's everywhere, and it's like, it's kind of sad.
I find that kind of crazy because, I mean, they only have like 350 million.
Yeah.
Which is not very much compared to a place, say, like China.
Right. Well, Canada's
or
got
India.
44 million, right?
Or India. I think it was 34 million actually. But yeah, it's just like a sliver compared to the 2.6 billion that is combined between China and India. It just blows my mind that, there's so much focus on the States, or at least we just think.
Oh, no, it's crazy. Like as a traveler, you encounter all kinds of people from all kinds of places in the world. And I mean, it's crazy to see this glorification of Americanism, or like what the media and what the film, how it transcends all over the world. I mean, Coca-Cola and McDonald's and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of places in the world, things like Coca-Cola and McDonald's are status symbols, right? Like if you're able to afford a can of Coke, which might cost, 80 cents in one of those countries or something like that, that's like, if you have money to blow that kind of money, you're doing good.
Yeah.
And even some countries I've heard I've heard stories about like Guatemala. You get McDonald's out there, and it's like a 5-star hotel or 5-star restaurant kind of like style. Like they'll bring it out to you on like glass plates, and there's actually like, I heard a story about security guards that like surround the McDonald's to make sure that people fuck off. Keep it like a paying person's business only.
Oh, wow. Upper class.
And wherever you go in the world, if there's a McDonald's, there's a clean bathroom, so they say. Because, McDonald's and big corporations, I mean, one of the things that's kind of okay about them is, I mean, they keep things so sterile and standardized, which kind of means
they're
that...
supposed to.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, I should say.
Yeah.
But, so I mean, like, wherever you go in the world, there's going to be standardized. I mean, these McDonald's are standardized, and I don't know if that can be good, I guess, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. Did you see any, like, animals that you never saw before?
You want to hear an animal story? The best one, the best animal I saw in the jungle, I never saw any kind of like pumas or anything crazy like that. I saw a few snakes, but you'd always get the sense the snakes are around, but not too many. The first dangerous animal encounter I had in the jungle, I was out on a thick trail, and whenever I did those thick trails, I was out with like people that were like their first culture was the jungle, I guess. Basically, that's all they...
Indigenous to the land?
Yeah, for sure. Indigenous to the land. First Nations people who are indigenous to the land. So I was with two. One was about 40 and one was about 25 or something like that. And then it was those two and myself and a really young, kind of cute German girl. She's like 20 or something like that. And we'd go out like every day and basically be looking for different kinds of plant medicines, and they basically take us to different spots and show us like what to look for and kind of show us how to harvest whatever we were looking for that day. But I think this is my second or third day into the jungle, and we were kind of like, it was pretty twisty kind of trail, and next thing you know, there's a giant wild boar, and it's like coming at us, and fuck, I like basically jumped up a tree like instantaneously. And we had two dogs with us, and the dogs were just fucking trying to, like, they're barking their heads off and trying to corner the pig, and the pig's trying to bite at them, and it's got like, you can hear the snapping jaws, like, and it's just snapping into like air, and eventually it fucked off and it was okay and stuff. But that was my first kind of animal experience in the jungle. My next one was actually I kind of half jokingly was gonna go look for bugs out at night in the jungle, and I was with the German girl there, and we both went out with flashlights, and we were just gonna stay really close to the cabin. And like, I don't know, 20-30 feet away, we found this, like, I don't know, it was like the size of like almost like a person's head or something. It was this massive spider, and it was like it was like a hybrid between a spider and a scorpion. So it had a stinger, and then it had claws, but it was kind of shaped like a spider, so it didn't have like the length that a scorpion would have. And it was massive, man. Like, we'd kind of like touch it a little bit with a long stick, and it would just instantly run, and it would just, and you'd be like, whoa, and it'd just be gone.
Apparently some of these spiders can just jump real high too, because they have all that leg strength.
Oh man, I found out after it's not fatal, but it was definitely fuck you up if it bites you.
Crazy.
Yeah, but not too much of that stuff, like little lizards here and there and stuff like that. But at least I got the sense that a lot of those kind of crazy reptiles were pretty like just off in the bush, and like if you stayed on the trail and didn't fuck around too much, you'd probably be okay. Came across like a boa constrictor one day. Lots of monkeys, of course.
Any other crazy stories you want to talk about that trip, or?
I'll tell you another story. Out in there's a town called Cusco, and there's this Irish hostel / bar out there, and it was like my go-to in Cusco for hostels. And I really only liked it there, initially because it had like really hot showers. To find a hot shower was pretty much impossible in Peru. But for some reason, this one hostel had just awesome, perfect hot showers. Like you can get that fucker steamy. So I love that shit, man. That was like the only hot showers I had in those whole 3 months, was the few nights that I stayed there. And it was also happened to be like a really intense party hostel. And I couldn't partake. I couldn't drink or anything like that. I was practicing with some of the spiritual medicines out there, and you have to kind of refrain from things like meat or alcohol and stuff when you're doing that. But I still enjoyed the time, the hangouts there. Basically until about 8 or 9 o'clock, I could tolerate it. But after that, it would be crazy. I've never seen partying at the magnitude that I've seen at this hostel ever in my life. Like it's. Like, I'd get up in the morning, and I would love the pub because it feels kind of like a night out of the pub, but at 8 or 9 in the morning, and I'd get myself breakfast, and I'd be being served by, like, I don't know, a large black German dude with like a tutu on and like punching gloves and panties, stuff like that. It'd be things like that. It'd be images like that would stick in my head, and like that'd be your waitress or your server that day. Or that morning. And yeah, people were definitely like taking shots of Yag bombs and shit like that. Like, it was pretty full on. This is in the morning. By nighttime, it's absolute chaos in there. Like, it's so packed, it's crazy, and it's like a blue smoke. So I couldn't do it at nighttime. I was okay in the bar till about 8 o'clock, just enjoying the environment and the music. American music, it was great. It was like the only American music I listened to the whole time I was in Peru. It was good.
Brent is working with the youth at EGADS, a non-profit community-based organization that provides programs and services to children, youth, and their families that improves their quality of life. So is this part of your degree, or?
Well, this one is for sure more social work than anthropology, but anytime you're dealing with people, anthropology becomes a factor.
Right.
In really tangible, overt ways, I'm doing treaty maps of Saskatchewan right now with them, or I will be next week. I kind of did all the groundwork for it, so it's all ready to go. So we're gonna have we do cultural nights at least once a week, and so this will be a cultural night in 2 weeks, I think.
That's good. You kind of mix.
But there's also a lot of non-tangible sort of ways. I mean, just the way that you deal with things on a day-to-day and the lens that you see things through kind of changes a little bit sometimes, I think, with some of those degrees. Changes your outlook and your lens at things, I guess.
Right, because you're only doing this for a short term, right, as part of a practicum?
Yeah, in this case with EGADS, it's a practicum. Yeah, that's right. It's my first, and I have one more, and I'll be doing my second one in next semester and starting in January.
How do you like it so far?
Oh, it's great. It's nice. It's kind of pretty self-directive, which in the beginning was kind of more like just, I don't know, getting to know everybody and hanging out, and it was kind of more, well, it's all been fun, but it was a lot of just hanging out with youth and getting to know them and playing pool, foosball. Took them out to couple Blades games, played football, lots of fun stuff like that. Now I'm trying to get a little bit more fancy, trying to get things today I had a animal party, which is mostly reptiles and stuff, hosted out there at EGADS at the drop-in at the rec center, the drop-in center.
How did the kids like that?
It was a pretty good response. They were really getting into, there's some pretty neat looking, pretty crazy lizards and snakes in there. Some of them on the endangered species list even.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but apparently it's more like they're endangered. Actually, one of them was actually extinct in the wild. So it only exists in sort of pet environments, but it's pretty wide in pet environments, so it'll never fully go extinct, apparently.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
It was a great night. It was really fun. And I'm trying to get a zombie film going right now, which I think the rough plan is to get the theme song from Walking Dead and then as a background, and then it's basically just kind of structured like a hokey informational video about EGADS, but everybody that we interview and do B-roll with will be totally zombified and glorified up and stuff, and just zombie effects. There's a couple people that have interest in the makeup part of zombie effects and stuff.
Well, that's really cool that you're able to implement sort of the video production into what you do there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a big part of what I'm trying to do with the practicum is integrate. I mean, really be able find ways to meet them on wherever they're at, and at the same time trying to come with the way that I can meet them where I'm at too.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Everybody has personal, unique skills, and you bring them to the table, and
and it's respecting each other's truths and authenticities and stuff, right?
Yeah. Little side note: my brother Neil actually used to work at EGADS.
Yeah, I know that. And I've seen a couple of pictures of him around there too.
Yeah. I know you're very active in yoga. Tell me about how you first got into it and what it does for you, mentally and physically.
I came to yoga kind of being in a tough spot. I think I was in I got into it more after a breakup, I think, at the time. And just, and it was winter time and stuff like that, I think, when I first got into it. And it was something that really slowly over time became something that was very healing for me. But it wasn't it wasn't like a snap of the finger. It took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to pour into it. And sometimes you go there and you think the shit's coming up kind of thing. But it became a really therapeutic process for me. And then since then, I've found yoga in a lot of great and joyous times in my life. And to be able to have that balance of something that has been in your life through the good and the bad, and to carry it with you, has become just really monumental to my life right now, I think.
How often do you do it now?
Well, I go through different eras. So right now it's been really difficult to keep it up because I've been basically spoken for every day, but I still try to make it at least once or twice a week. I'm doing I'll be doing it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'll be doing like a workshop.
Right. Aren't you doing, I saw you're doing level 2, a level 2 workshop or something I saw on your Facebook.
Yeah.
You had a picture with a bunch of people at a yoga thing.
Oh, I think that was from last year. It was one of those memory things,
Oh,
one of those
okay.
memory shares.
Oh.
Yeah, and that was actually from a yoga teacher training out in Victoria.
Oh.
Which is with the same crew that I do my yoga with here in Saskatoon. There's kind of 4 different yoga studios that are all affiliated to One Yoga in Saskatoon, in Victoria, and then there's the One Yoga for the People in Vancouver, in West Hastings, and that one is run by the Dustin guy that I mentioned to you before. And then there's also One Yoga in Trinidad, actually, run by a guy named Troy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
And I think there was talk of making one in Iceland, but I'm not sure if it's come to full fruition yet.
Okay.
But I know that Ryan was doing some teacher training out there too.
Must be a good way to meet people, I suppose. I've only gone a couple times.
Yeah, it's good for like friendships and stuff too. Sometimes I get like I'm business. I go in there and I go out, and at this point, especially with One Yoga, it's like there's always so many familiar faces that, you know, it's like lots of highs and smiles and visits a bit. Yeah, I mean, it really does form a bond between people though, for sure. I feel pretty like connected to the people there, and I feel like a lot of the healthier relationships that I've made in my adult life have been through there, and I hope that that's something that I can kind of continue. And I'm looking forward to getting back to Victoria so I can go to One Yoga Victoria.
It's very good for your health.
It's really great physically, and it has cleansing, emotional and psychological cleansing in it as well, I would say, for sure. And you might say spiritual is what a lot of people would say, and you could definitely say that.
Are you more limber now that you've done it for... How many years have you done it now?
Probably at least 5 years, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely like, I mean, it depends on what era I'm in too, right? Like sometimes I'm doing it every day for long periods of time. I've done a few 30 and 40-day challenges now. So when I'm doing that, I definitely, like, you can't even, when you're walking around, it's like if you stand still for 2 seconds, you got to like pull one of your legs back to the back of your head or something. Just can't help yourself.
Yeah.
But right now I feel pretty like I could go for getting more limber. Like I'm thinking about it more and more as the week goes by. It's like, yeah, this weekend I'm gonna get a chance to just get yogied out. I did a really good. I did a power yoga class with Dustin on Monday, and his classes are kind of notoriously hardcore, and I made it through it pretty good. His I've got a gut, and his core work, man, it crushed me, and my stomach still is achy, but it's medicine ache. It's good. I'm looking forward to tearing that muscle again tomorrow.
Nice. What else do you like to do in your spare time?
Walking is one of my favorite things to do on my spare time, in nature specifically, if I can.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, pretty much everywhere I go, I try to. I'm kind of like earth porn, you might say. I'm kind of a connoisseur of nature. You're an outdoorsy type. Yeah, I really could, like, I can't tell you how much I love walking. I mean, every day I try to include it in my life. Walking and biking. I try to, I mean, it's my way of commuting around, but it's also just, it's a pleasure for me. You know, I find I've done a fair amount of biking too, and I find it's a good way to clear your mind. Yeah, it's great. And get your thoughts out and sort of reshuffle your thoughts. Winter comes, it's all about cross-country skiing. I do that whenever I have a minute, or an hour, I should say. Yeah, I remember you going down the trails of Little Red. Yeah, Little Red, that's my stomping grounds. I do the 5K trail. It's lit at night, and nighttime cross-country skiing out there is nothing like it. I just love it. Just nothing. You don't hear anything but the sound of your heavy breath on the snow, or on the air, the cold air and the snow crunching against your skis. It's beautiful. That's up by Prince Albert. That's where Brent is from. And it's beautiful up there. It really is. We used to go to Little Red quite a bit when we were hanging out during our Siast days. Another thing you always had, for as long as I've known you, is a very unique style.
You seem to always be wearing a cool or weird shirt.
Yeah.
For a while there, you were wearing those leopard pants a lot.
Yeah,
too.
that's right. That was like the 2012 era.
Is your wardrobe something you think about, or is it just
I don't
you
know.
just buy interesting pieces when you see them and
I
select
don't,
at random?
I don't know what to say, man. I mean, yeah, I guess that's come up a lot in my last few years of university, and I don't know. I think that I like my style, but I don't read into it too much. It's like, wow, that looks like something that I would love to wear, and then people are like, that's pretty eccentric, and I was like, well, I guess it is.
Just don't think about it much.
I don't
Just-
think
yeah.
about it that much. I mean, I don't think I'm dressed. I got sweatpants and a shirt, a Brave New World shirt.
Yeah, you're pretty tamed down right now.
I try to stay tamed down a little bit when I'm at work. Sometimes I forget about it, and I'll go to work with like a screaming like lime green shirt with like a pyramid with an eye in it, or I don't know, like
That shirt you were wearing the other night when you came over to hang out was pretty funny.
Which one was that? The
Ah, it was
CSCR
like-
shirt?
No, it was like that
that zebra
sublimation.
shirt.
Yeah, you had the zebra. Yeah, it was like an African
Yeah, the
scene.
African scene. Yeah,
at
and it
the
was
end
like a
of the-
silky shirt. Yeah, that was a cool shirt.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, I used to have like some Rastafarian pants earlier this year, but I don't know. They just kind of put them away for now anyway.
Yeah, you just kind of select at random in the morning.
Well, lately, the funny thing about that is that I'm still like I'm sort of struggling to find default normal world pants, especially. Right now I'm wearing sweats because these are pretty much my only pants accustomed to this season.
You're still stuck in travel mode.
I guess, kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm stuck in like not knowing or not dressing to conformity world, so I need to get some new pants, at least 2 more pair.
Tell me who generally inspires you. Who's someone you respect a great deal and why?
In like real like people I know, or do you mean like?
Anyone.
Well, they're 2 different brackets to me.
You could say name both. If you
Locally, I mean, there's all kinds of people that kind of inspire me. I really appreciate Peter Garden. I think he's dedicated his whole life to like, or at least the whole time I've known him, I should say, to like activism and building knowledge, producing knowledge as much as possible, and making knowledge as democratic as possible to the world. And I really admire and respect that. And I think that he's always been on the right side of subjects, and he's always maintained firm stance and still being able to remain accessible to sort of people who aren't activist-ish at all, and people who are, strongly academic, and being able to be accessible to all those people and still be authentic to himself and his family as well.
He's a good educator.
He's a good educator, yeah, and he's actually going back into social work. As of now, it'll be his 3rd degree. I think he has a background in psychology and women and gender studies. So this will be his 3rd degree, but he's just kind of starting out. It'll probably be 2 years, maybe a little bit more for him, because he'll have some of the electives there. But even that, I mean, at the age of, I don't know how old exactly he is, but I'm sure he's in his 40s. Yeah, it's just the whole thing is inspiring. But I have lots of inspirations. Phil Legacy, he's a bit younger than me, but that guy inspires me. He's always kind of found ways to really appreciate life and really grab life by the horns. I don't know anybody who's spent as much time in academics as he has, and who's also developed such a well-rounded life in all kinds of ways.
He's a good friend of yours, right?
Yeah, him and I hang out quite a bit. We've done some tree planting and fruit picking together too.
And is he a painter? Kinda?
Yeah, he's a pretty serious artist. He's a really good soccer player. He's really funny guy all around. Like, basically, I don't think anybody's ever talked to him for more than 5 minutes and not had a good laugh in there.
Go ahead.
He really has a way of bringing insight into whoever he's talking to while maintaining a really great sense of humor, and really is a major contributor to the creative world, I think, too. And his brother Mark too. Really, the whole family is a really well-rounded bunch.
Is there anybody you don't know that you look up to or respect a great deal?
Like a celebrity type thing?
Yeah, just
Or
anyone
like a
you
public
don't.
figure type
Yeah,
thing?
someone you don't know. Yeah.
Well, let's see here. I mean, all through my life there'd be different.
What's the first person that comes to your mind?
How about James Maynard Keenan? He's right up there.
That's a great
Good role model.
answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep seeing articles about a new Tool album, but then I keep seeing articles that it's not going to happen.
I don't know what my prediction would be on that. I think it'll happen.
I think it'll happen, but when it happens.
It's moving like molasses in January, and I think they're trying to search for magic, and I'm not sure if they're not finding it or what the deal is. It kind of seems like that, though.
I saw a meme a while ago. It was like a skeleton sitting on a bench,
I've seen that one. Yeah,
waiting for the new Tool.
Yeah, yeah. If I see that one again, I'm gonna share that shit. Did you ever get into Pussifer?
You know what? I never really did, but I'm going to.
Oh man, I love
heard like
Pussifer.
I heard like one or two songs, but I know he's kind of put more emphasis on that band.
I saw Pussifer in Alberta when the album Conditions of My Parole came out, which was kind of their second big album, but it was like kind of a big breakthrough album for them. And I hadn't really listened to the album too much. I had maybe a few songs here and there, and I was kind of resonating with it, and I knew that it was going to be a good show, but I think if I had to choose a single show that was my favorite, that might have been it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a really amazing show. And, I don't know if you've been to a Tool show. Have you been to a Tool show?
I've been to a few Tool shows.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Cool, yeah, I've been to 2.
Including the one on the Lateralis tour in the year 2000.
Sweet. Well, Tool is really like all out and super creative and super interesting and also an absolutely amazing show. With Pussifer, it's more like there's like a hokey looking little campfire in the middle of the stage and one of those silver bullet campers kind of in the back corner. And then he kind of gives like this, he starts the performance off with like this passionate sort of speech about like the value of creativity and how we need it to save the world. And the way he delivers it is beautiful, and it like brings a tear to the eye. And then he kind of walks off stage and pulls out this giant, over-the-top red wagon, like a big one, like bigger than he is. He's pulling it out, and it's a band wagon. It's got all the band's instruments on there. He pulls it out, and then the band comes out and climb the ladder and get up on the wagon and get ready to start jamming. Starts jamming and goes over the silver bullet, opens the door. This really cool chick comes out and starts throwing up fucking awesome high kicks, fucking just rocking out. And then, I mean, the show just kind of maintained that kind of look. So it looked like they're in the middle of the desert by a campfire, fucking just banging their heads and rocking out. And it was a seriously solid show, like one of the best shows I've ever seen. And it had such an intimate, personal feel. It was a pretty small venue.
Yeah.
Really good. If I had to say a best show, it would be that one.
Well, I have to almost say the same thing about the Lateralis show in Edmonton that we saw. It was like up there as one of the best performances I've ever seen. Saw him again.
I believe that.
I saw him again later on with 10,000 Days in Saskatoon, and that was good too. But
did you see him in Regina?
I think it was Saskatoon.
They played in Saskatoon, and then I think a year later they played in Regina in the summer.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see the Regina one.
The Regina one was miles better than the Saskatoon one. I was kind of disappointed in the Saskatoon. That was my first one.
Yeah, it was pretty mediocre compared to what I had seen.
I don't think he was feeling it. I think he got off that plane and it was Saskatoon, and he said, "It's fucking cold. Fuck this shit. Let's just do this and go."
Everybody has their off days.
It's February and. I don't think that he's meant for Saskatoon.
I think it was January even.
Yeah, you're right.
But no. When I saw him in Edmonton, it was like a magical experience.
That's how I felt with the Regina one too.
Yeah.
It was really good. He kind of played a medley of everything, not one album or the other. He played shit from Opiate and Undertow and Anemia and Lateralis.
Yeah.
And 10,000 Days.
Yeah, they did a good mix.
Yeah. Before he played the song Anima.
Yeah.
He was like, there's a long guitar solo in the song before that. And he was like, sits down and he pulls out a Rolling Stones magazine and the song ends. And he's like, says here in the Rolling Stones magazine, Lady Gaga tells all about what? I don't know. Puberty? And then he goes on this rant about like the bullshit of Hollywood politics and stuff. And then fucking, hey,
Oh, wow.
It's pretty good.
Nice. That's awesome. What is your spirit animal, if you had to choose one?
I would say sort of a grayish alien, which kind of goes into stuff I've talked to you about in my early adulthood about resonating with an alien in past lives. But yeah, if I had to choose, maybe
It's
also
not really an animal, but that's very interesting. We'll have to maybe get into that in our...
maybe I would consider a lion or maybe a snake. If I had to guess, but I don't know if I've ever been like, nobody's labeled me, and I would just have to think about what I would resonate with as far as animals go. I kind of have a glowing like blonde mane, like a lion. So, and also the yoga studio I practice at is very like resonates with the lion, and that kind of influences me maybe a little bit too. Snake, I have always just, I like reptiles. I like snakes.
I was going to say there's a lion right behind you
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
on the blanket.
Makes me feel way safer.
I always think that's a good question because, everybody resonates with different animals for no reason, really, just however they feel, you know.
Between cats and dogs, I'm a cat person for sure. I like dogs too, but I've always kind of had a cat in my life, and cats seem to resonate really well with me.
I actually love cats. They are my spirit animal.
Yeah, Frankie is unusually not social to me. I'm used to cats paying more attention to me.
You know, he interacts with different people differently.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely got a strong personality.
What music are you listening to at the moment? Any artists you want to recommend?
Well, even to this day, man, Pussifer is always kind of a good go-to that I do. And there's really only like 2 or 3 albums that they've made really at this point. I guess there's a new one which I haven't actually gotten into, which I should. But if you're looking for an album recommendation, it would be Conditions of My Parole by Pussifer. I still listen to that album, and it still might be my favorite album right now.
Cool. What's the most recent thing you've listened to?
Well, my whole radio setup is fucked in my car, so I kind of listen to whatever. Whatever is playing is good as long as it's not country. And in PA, the guy that I kind of live with, he's like really fanatical about 80s, 70s, 80s country music, kind of all kinds, and country western movies, Tom Selleck and Clint Eastwood. So not that.
And I've always known you as a Nine Inch Nails fan. Do you ever throw some of that on?
Yeah, I still like Nine Inch Nails. I like some of his newer stuff better than his old stuff now. Like the old stuff was cool at the time, and it still is cool, but it's pretty dark and stuff. And I mean, not that his new stuff doesn't have dark undertones and stuff like that, but I really like The Hand That Feeds and Year Zero and Ghosts. All 3 of those albums are just amazing, all for different reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no,
I think since he's quit heroin, he's stepped up his game, even though his game was good when he was on heroin.
Yeah, there's actually a really good documentary, a couple documentaries about his story, and yeah, he's always been an interesting figure in my
yeah, he's up there
mind.
too in the role model world.
Yeah, Trent Reznor, of course, we're talking about the man, the legend behind Nine Inch Nails.
Really charismatic and creative people.
There's a really good behind the scenes tour video on his I don't know if it's his latest tour, but it was one of the craziest tours that he's put on, and just showing him being so specific, like it shows it in the behind the scenes video.
Yeah. And
you can really respect his level of detail and just how he really, I wouldn't say he's like, you know, a slave driver, but like he's very particular in what he wants.
Yeah.
And clear vision. And even after all these years, he's still putting in that kind of effort into his show.
Yeah, it's just ingrained in him, man.
He doesn't, you know, that's true artistry
he's
right
made
there.
His whole life out of it.
Yeah. So I understand you do eventually want to return to BC. What is it about the West Coast that makes you want to move back?
Well, kind of in my life, my adult life, maybe the last 6 years or so, 7 years, I've kind of gone to the West Coast. Just more and more, it seems like it might have been the first time, might have been for just like a week or two, and then 2 summers later, it's like, fuck that, I can't just go for 2 weeks. You need to go for at least a month. And now it's to the point where, I mean, the last time I was there for, well, I mean, if you count Peru and being on the West Coast out there too, I was probably 9 months or so in and around it. And at this point, I mean, I don't think I'm going to go for good. I think I'm going to come back to the prairies at least for a couple more months in the summer. But just more and more, I'm kind of resonating with it and falling in love with basically the forest and the ocean and the mountains. I think that those elements really humble a person being out there.
You know, when I stayed in Nelson a couple times with Andrew, it was weird the next morning just to like go outside and see a mountain.
It's
and
a trip.
It's like,
You ever try climbing one of those
daunting.
things? You ever do any?
Oh yeah,
climbing?
yeah. Oh well, like I mean,
Just
I don't know.
Whatever ones.
Some, not like a real super high one,
Yeah.
but
some day hikes and stuff.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's super fun.
Super fun, yeah.
Yeah.
And those lakes out there in the Kootenays are so nice. Yeah, I really like the interior of BC, southeast BC and stuff like that. Like it's one of my favorite places, but I think that the West Coast still captures my heart, and it must be the ocean. And it's not just Vancouver Island, although I really like Vancouver Island. But I like all of that United States stretch, Washington, Oregon, California. I find them all sort of unique and magical. Washington is like kind of carries on a lot with the rainforest that's on Vancouver Island. But it also has, like, especially in the mid to south end of it, it's got like massive spruce trees, like almost like rainforest style spruce trees that are like some of the biggest in the world, and like really massive trees. And also like kind of rocky beaches, which are also really nice. But then you get into Oregon and it just becomes like long, endless beaches through all of Oregon, just massive miles and miles of beaches. And major like rocks that are kind of out in the bay, and every time these massive waves are coming in, they smash against them, and it's just so beautiful. I think California's a hodgepodge of everything, but Vancouver Island, it has so many like nooks and crannies in it. It's unbelievable, and so many like Gulf islands that are attached to it, and like every Gulf island that you go to is like a different feel to it. And every place that you go has just such a different feel to it, but all really cool.
Mm-hmm. And you don't have to deal with winter.
Yeah, winter's pretty mild there. It's like +8, +10. I mean, it's not hot, but it's not really cold either.
Yeah.
You go over there and people are saying, "Oh, it's a difficult +8. It's a cold +8," and it's like,
Yeah. Come to the prairies.
It is like I did one trip where I did a drive out there in the winter for Christmas holidays. I got myself out to the coast. Did Christmas in Nelson, and then did New Year's in Tofino, which is one of my favorite places on the island right now too. Really cool town.
When do you plan to go?
Next?
Yeah.
To the island?
Move back there for a bit.
Probably right after Christmas, so like the 27th or 28th, I'll probably leave Saskatoon. I'll probably leave at like 8 o'clock at night or something like that, and then try to get through Calgary at like 2 or 3 in the morning, and then get a little nap in. And then kind of be semi-refreshed for a day drive just from Banff, I guess, to Nelson. And then Nelson, I'll take a few days off and then kind of putt it from there to the coast. Between Nelson and basically a little ways west of Kelowna is like the scary part of the drive, and I'll take that as slow and safe as I can. But once you're about 2 hours west of Kelowna, I think it's not going to be minus temperatures at all.
That's going to be nice.
There won't be any ice or snow or anything to worry about.
Escape the winter.
Yeah.
Are you taking Old Blue?
No, not in the winter. I wouldn't drive Old Blue in the winter. That'd be crazy.
So where are you staying then when you go?
I got a place I think lined up. It's with a yoga friend of mine from One Yoga. Her name's Claire. Oh. She's just a cool chick. We actually kind of found ourselves resonating with each other in like kind of a really great but platonic kind of way. But like, yeah, we connect really good.
So you will go to there to finish your degrees?
I'll be doing my practicum out there, and then I think the plan, and it's kind of rough. It's not really an ideal situation, but I'll have 2 classes to finish after my practicum, like elective social work classes. So what'll either happen is I'll come back to Saskatchewan to get Old Blue, and stay for a month or 2 and do these classes, or I'll do maybe 1 class and then maybe stay and work in Saskatchewan for the summer, depending on where I'm at or what I want to do. And then or do like a class online, or maybe do 1 or 2 classes through the UVic. I'm kind of leaving it open, but I still have 2 classes, which is kind of like having a hangnail, because I'll basically be done and ready to work, but I'll still have to do these 2 fucking classes.
Oh yeah.
But it'll be okay.
Cool. Well, that's good stuff. You're like a traveling student.
You know, the best way to like to capture Brent in his ideal state is when I was in Vancouver Island. I was living out of my camper van. My social life was like people from basically the rainbow scene, which is a completely interesting subculture in society that most people don't know about, but maybe I won't talk about right now, but totally legal and all that stuff. But hanging out with basically a lot of socialist hippies and anarchist punk type figures, and living out of a van and going to university and doing yoga teacher training all in the same sort of day-to-day lifestyle, which was kind of ideal for me. I really got like a taste of 3 different worlds on my regular day-to-day basis. I got the academic, the yogi, and the, I guess, hardcore punks, train hoppers. I kind of got it all rolled into one day-to-day lifestyle, and that was kind of ideal for me. So that would be like my ideal setup in a nutshell.
A lot of people with life experience.
I have a taste for mixing and matching. I'll put it that way. I like variety packs.
Is there anything else you want to add?
I don't know. No, I think that's good.
Well, thanks, Brent, for being on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me, Matt.
It was really interesting having you come into the booth here and having a chat in the Time and Place podcast booth here. And thank you, everybody out there, for listening, and look forward to the next episode.
Peace out, yo.
Peace.